Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to our final day of Orange County Realtor Safety Week. I'm Joyce Endo, your 2021 treasurer and member of the Orange County Realtors Education Committee. I'm delighted to introduce today's speaker. Jeff Liberman is a retired 31-year law enforcement leader who was responsible for managing the Long Beach Police Department's vibrant South Patrol Division. Commander Liberman oversaw the Security Services Division, which provides contract police services for the Long Beach Police Department. He studied counterterrorism in Israel with the Israeli National Police. He represented the Los Angeles Metropolitan Law Enforcement Agencies in the Department of Homeland Security's National Operations Center and has traveled extensively internationally and domestically to study best practices and policing. Jeff is also founder and president of Crisis Control Solutions, which prepares real estate professionals to lead, protect, and support their human resources and maintain business continuity before, during, and after crisis and emergent contingencies. We are so honored to have him with us today. If you have any questions for him, please type them in the Q&A box. Today's session is also being recorded, and you will also receive a link after we're finished. So Jeff, please take it away.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Joyce. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. And I want to say happy Realtor Safety Month, and with the most optimism possible. Realtors continue to do a good job staying safe, but as we'll discuss today, it still remains a hazardous occupation, and there are many things that we can all do to make it much more safe. So today I'm going to focus on some crimes that have occurred to real estate professionals within Orange County. And I'm going to cover a couple of recent crimes, both ended up as tragedies. But there are many takeaways from that, and hopefully by the end of the presentation today, you'll have a new way of looking at your safety, not only in your professional setting, but also in your personal setting. The numbers that you see in front of you are from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. They represent the number of real estate professionals that have been murdered in the line of duty at work. Now, these numbers don't account for slip and falls and heart attacks and car accidents. These numbers represent fatal occupational injuries due to homicide. So the latest numbers they have are from 2019, and there were 29 real estate professionals that were murdered at work. When you look at the statistics and compare it against other professional occupations, the number of real estate professionals that are murdered each year are within several, within the margin of error of liquor store owners and security guards. So that kind of puts it into perspective. Realtors are out in the community. There are certainly dangers associated with the real estate industry because it is so unique. What other legal profession can you think of where a predator who wants to target somebody can look online and find the object of his or her affection and get them to willingly show up to a place of the predator's choosing at a time, very frequently at the time of their choosing? So it is there is a lot that can go wrong in the real estate industry. And today we're going to kind of break down some of these factors, and I'm going to present you with a few models that you can use to look at your safety through a different lens. First, I want to discuss the crime triangle. In order for any crime to occur, you need to have three elements present. You need to have the victim, you need to have a motivated offender, and you have to have the circumstances or the environment or the opportunity for them to feel comfortable enough to target you. As a realtor, or even in your personal life or your own home, when you think about your personal safety, focus on removing one or more of the sides of that crime triangle. Without all three elements there, the likelihood of a crime committing is almost nothing. This can happen everything from package theft and petty theft to sexual assault and homicide. You need to have these three elements present. Now, on August 7th, a home inspector in Huntington Beach named Michael Alderson was shot and killed during a family dispute in which other real estate professionals were present. I'll let the newscast give you the overview.
Well, that's right, Susan. Good evening, everybody. And the on-site investigation has now been completed at long last. It took place where the shooting took place just behind me here, the home that we are zooming into. That's where the deadly shooting took place. One was killed, 3 others wounded. The investigation lasted all day yesterday and most of today. And in fact, all day, detectives and forensics personnel from the Huntington Beach Police Department had combed through the property. Now, for now, all they can tell us is that the shooting was a result of a family dispute related to the upcoming sale of that very residence. A group of real estate professionals yesterday accompanied a family member to view the home, which was occupied by another family member, a younger brother, we are told. A confrontation ensued. Shots were fired. 4 people were hit. When officers arrived, they evacuated 3 injured victims they found in the front yard. At that point, a man who was thought to be the shooter came out of the house with a superficial wound himself. All were transported to the hospital where one of the real estate professionals died. Now, earlier today, I spoke with a neighbor who could not understand why a dispute over property could unravel into violence.
I think it's crazy. I grew up with the guy. I've known him for 45 years and never thought anything like this. Never. I knew he had troubles with his sister, but never thought he'd go out trying to shoot people like that. They were fighting over the house, but he didn't want to leave. And his sister did, and he drank a little, so I think that just pushed him too far.
And back live with you, the investigation at 4542 Operetta Drive has now been completed. Police still are not identifying any of the victims. This evening, only one remains in the hospital in unknown condition. That person is believed to be the suspected shooter, the man who was living in that home and did not want that house sold. Again, the investigation here completed just minutes ago. Forensics units and detectives were here most of the day and all day yesterday, of course. They have now left the scene. There's still a lot of work to be done on this case. We'll keep you posted. For now, we're live in Huntington Beach. Rick Lozano, Fox 11 News. Well, that's
Now, this is an absolute tragedy, but if you look at it objectively through the lens of the crime triangle with the 3 elements, you had a tragic circumstance where all 3 of those elements presented themselves at the exact same time. Your real estate professionals, your home inspector, the agent, and the suspect's sister showed up. Again, I'm not privy to all the facts and circumstances, nor have I reviewed the actual reporting or the investigation, but it appears as if there were warning signs ahead of time, that there was a bitter family dispute, that the son of the deceased parents who were living in that house, who had a history of being intoxicated and volatile, according to the neighbors, there were a long series of pre-incident indicators that may have occurred that would give rise to a little bit of caution interjecting yourself into that situation. You had the suspect, the motivated offender, who was very upset about this impending sale and was adamantly against it. And you had the opportunity, which is the convergence of all of these factors coming together on that particular day at the height of the acrimony with the other family members and the real estate professionals. It all came together at the same time and resulted in a tragic shooting where multiple people were shot. So as I proceed today, I'm going to go through each of the sides of the crime triangle, and I'm going to discuss some of the things that you can do to remove that side. So let's start with yourself as the real estate professional, as a potential victim. Your number one defense as a real estate professional is sharpening your intuition. Now, Gavin DeBecker, who is the author of Oprah's favorite book from 1997, The Gift of Fear, Gavin DeBecker, he defines intuition as knowing without knowing why. Human beings are not the strongest animals in the animal kingdom. We don't have the sharpest senses, eyesight, hearing, smell, taste. We're not physically strongest, but we are blessed with the highest functioning brain. Intuition essentially is your brain's ability to catalog every life experience that you've had, and every memory, every sensation, and synthesize that information to warn you based on outside factors. So you frequently hear that people that have been involved, have been victims of crime, or are very suspicious about somebody, say they have a funny feeling, the hair stands up on the back of their neck, they get a funny feeling in the pit of their stomach. That is an actual physiological response to outside stimuli that you might not be able to consciously articulate, but it's your body telling you. Your body is hypersensitive. And whenever you get that feeling, you need to listen to it. Your intuition always has your best interest at stake. The one thing that you do have working against you with your intuition is denial, which is a natural human reaction, a natural human condition where you want to think the best in people. Now, you can think the best in people while still being guarded and being hyper perspective, or hyper aware of your surroundings. So we want to strip away all of that denial in the real estate industry just by looking at the homicide numbers. It is a very hazardous occupation. Then law enforcement is able to catalog the number of homicides, but what they aren't able to quantify are the numbers of real estate professionals that are victims of other crimes, everything from robbery and assault to sexual assault. The FBI doesn't collect those statistics, but if our crime rates in this country right now are any indication, just in 2020, we had a 31% increase in homicides in California alone. Double-digit, sometimes triple-digit increases in shootings and violent assaults and sexual assaults in all of the major cities in California. We are in a period now of extraordinary danger, and let alone the potential for having more tens of thousands of felons released out of state prison, and they're back in the communities, back in our neighborhoods, and in our current situation, criminal justice reform, there are very few consequences for petty crimes and low-grade misdemeanors and even some felonies. So there are very few factors out there that dissuade predators and career criminals from doing what they do, and that's preying on people. So let's strip away all of the denial that bad things don't happen in Orange County, because they do, as evidenced in Huntington Beach and then another news story I'm going to show you, and realize that there are some hazards in the community. So again, back to the crime triangle, sharpening your intuition. And there are certain things that you can do to do that. I recommend that every single one of you subscribe to the social media feeds of all of the law enforcement agencies in which you live and work. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those, Orange County Sheriff's Department, Laguna Beach, wherever you live and work in Orange County and LA County, just like their social media pages. So when you're scrolling through your Facebook page, you will see wanted bulletins from the Orange County Sheriff's Department talking about crime trends in your particular communities. That is free, accessible information that can potentially save your life. And it constantly reminds you that there is bad stuff that happens out in the world. So that is one way to increase your intuition. Another tool that you have at your fingertips, it's called Google Alerts. If you log on to Google and type in Google Alerts, you can set up basically a web crawler that will deliver you information on whatever topic that you find interesting at a time of your choosing. So that's how I find out about crimes against real estate agents. I type in search terms like realtor attacked, realtor murdered, sexual assault, crimes against realtors. And anytime an article that appears anywhere on the World Wide Web appears, it's sent into my inbox as an email. If it doesn't apply or it's not of interest, I delete it immediately. If it is of interest, I can, I read it and then I can archive it and retrieve it later. If you set those Google alerts up for crimes against real estate agents or crimes within your community, you're constantly reminded about what's going on in your neighborhood, in your community. And it makes you more aware and more safe. And also, I would argue, a more professional real estate agent. You have the ability to speak with authority about the trends and all of our communities that surround where you work. The next thing you can do to remove yourself from the crime triangle is institute a protective intelligence check or a background check on every prospect. Now, this is very, very simple. Beginning today, I encourage all of you, when somebody cold calls you or contacts you on email and wants to see a property, your very next step should be asked to have them text you a picture of their government issued ID. Just establishing that protocol, that barrier that they have to get you, is going to dissuade anybody who wants to target you from supplying their identifying information before you meet them face to face. The very next thing you should do is, at the very least, run them through the California Megan's Law database. If you type in a Google search box California Megan's Law, it'll take you to the State Department of Justice website, Megan's Law website, and bookmark that on your personal device and on your handheld device and on your computer. And anytime somebody wants to establish a professional relationship with you and you get a copy of their photo ID, at the very least, run their name through that to see if they're a registered sex offender. If they are, registered sex offenders have the right to purchase property, and you can't legally discriminate against them. But what you can do is enhance your safety protocol and enhance your safety when you meet with them, like bringing 1 or 2 extra people, doing it during daylight, and making sure that a lot of people know where you are, who you're with, and when you're going to be back. So there are also another wide variety of tools online. County court records. You can establish an account with the Orange County Superior Court online. And if you have a funny feeling about somebody, or if you're looking about actually doing business, you can see if they've ever been a party in a civil suit. Also good to know if somebody has a history of being litigious before you establish a professional relationship with them. Again, all this information is at your fingertips online. And it creates a business practice where you're doing due diligence before you ever meet somebody face to face, just to ensure that you know that they at least are not a sexual predator, which is a very common predator in the real estate industry. The next thing you should do, and I highlight it in red, is what I call crisis rehearsal, or start building mental blueprints. Which are preloaded safety plans in your brain for incidents that might likely occur. That's everything from dealing with a creepy client, somebody that asks inappropriate questions, makes you feel uncomfortable, to somebody that surprises you like a squatter when you go in to show a house and you're not expecting somebody there and there's a homeless person inside. Or if you're showing an open house and somebody corners you in a room, or won't let you, out of the house, or, you need to start thinking about common occurrences and preloading your response to it. And that's very important. General Mattis, who was a world-renowned former defense secretary and former Marine general, had a famous saying. He said, "Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody in the room." Now, I'm not encouraging any of my real estate professionals to kill anybody, but the basic philosophy is sound. It takes nothing away from you to have mental blueprints, preloaded strategies in your mind when you're showing a home, conducting an open house, or establishing a relationship with somebody. Outwardly, you could be making eye contact, smiling, being friendly and professional, but inside, you need to start thinking about your safety. Where are my exits? If I can't get to that exit, to the front door, how am I going to get out of here? Can I go out through a slider? If I wind up in the backyard of this house, is there a side gate? Is the side gate locked? Can I make it over the fence if I have to? Can I make it back to my car parked on the curb in front of the house and get in it and get away? All of these scenarios you need to start thinking about right now and loading in your responses before any of this stuff happens. Everybody's heard of the fight or flight response, but in reality, when faced with a dangerous situation, 70%, research has shown that about 70% of people freeze when they're in a crisis scenario. Those that survive, the ones that are able to implement a safety plan and either run away or fight, are the ones that have thought about it ahead of time and have loaded these pre-thought about mental blueprints into their mind. And the most successful have practiced them under non-emergency situations, and they're able to implement them and get away. So by the end of the presentation today, hopefully I will have at least started loading some of these mental blueprints into your memory bank, so you can implement them if something bad happens. Finally, get off the X. The X represents if you think back to my favorite cartoon as a kid, Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. Wile E. Coyote made it his sole mission in life to lure Roadrunner to a particular spot and eat him. And very frequently, Wile E. Coyote would go to the bottom, stand beneath a cliff, and take out a paintbrush and paint a big X on the desert floor, and then perch an anvil right above the X on the top of the cliff and scatter some birdseed in the middle of the X, waiting for Roadrunner to come and eat the birdseed so he could drop the anvil on him. Well, what happened? The Roadrunner always had his radar going. His intuition and his situational awareness was unequaled. And he would always see Wile E. Coyote over the horizon and often wind up luring Wile E. Coyote onto his own X, where the Roadrunner would drop the anvil on him. You need to be the Roadrunner at all times. You need to be aware of the crime triangle, have your preloaded blueprints, and always avoid the X. And if you wind up on the X, and the X represents in the crime triangle that the space in the middle where the victim, offender, and opportunity come together, when all of those three things appear and a crime is happening or about to happen, your number one response is to get off the X and get to a safe area. Get off the X. Just keep that in the front of your mind. When somebody is creepy, or if you're in a situation where somebody is about to grab you, or if you're out with a family and a weird person walks in and pulls out a gun, get off the X immediately and get out of there. If that doesn't work, you need to hide or to barricade yourself someplace. And if that doesn't work, you need to fight. And we're going to talk about self-defense a little bit later, but get off the X. Now, there are three things that I recommend that every real estate professional carry with them when they're working. There's a lot of debate about what safety tools are available. I know that realtor associations have pro shops and sell pepper spray and stun guns and all kinds, Kubotans and sharp keychains. Based on my 31 years in law enforcement and from personal experience and countless physical altercations, and actually seeing what works and what doesn't, these are my three recommendations every realtor should have on them at all times. Number one is a high quality steel flashlight with a self-defense bezel. So I have one here I carried as a law enforcement officer. It's made by Surefire. It's called the Surefire Defender. It's about 4 inches long. It has a steel pocket clip here, which is, I'll describe in a second, which is a critical feature, as well as a sharp bezel. It is an extremely bright flashlight. But it's made out of aluminum, and both the bezel end and the end here where the tail cap is are designed to be striking implements. What makes it so valuable is that every realtor should have a flashlight anyway, because you're frequently in properties that have no utilities or electricity, so you should always have one just for general purposes. But now it doubles as a self-defense implement and a striking implement. This pocket clip is important because I can attest that many realtors will buy pepper spray or a stun gun, and ladies, you'll throw it in your purse, and then over time, it winds up buried in the bottom of it. And if it comes time to having to get it into action to save your life, you don't want to be digging in your purse. A pocket clip enables you to put this, and I would recommend keeping it on your strong side. If you are right-handed, Put it on the right side of your waist, clip to the inside of your skirt or your slacks with your blouse covering it, but at the same place every day, all the time. So no matter what, if you reach to your right hip, you're going to be able to pull this out. This is such an effective striking implement. If somebody grabs you, God forbid somebody grabs you by the throat, you have the ability to use your left hand to block and pull out your flashlight and strike, rake it down their arm or smash them in the bridge of their nose, issue some blinding light to their eye and hit them in the temple with it. But it provides you a very, very solid self-defense tool, striking implement that you can use to at least get away and get some help. These are, some of them can approach about $200, but I also have, this one is made by Olight. It's essentially the same design. It's about $50, and you can buy them on Amazon for all day. Just research SelfDefense Flashlight, but make sure that it has a pocket clip. It's made out of metal or steel or aluminum and has a striking bezel. Very, very important and cheap insurance for your personal safety. The second thing I recommend is that you carry your cell phone on you at all times. And a word about cell phones. Cell phones are both one of the best things that ever happened to us and one of the worst things that ever happened to us. The cell phone provides you the ability to communicate, to show people or tell people where you are and to call for help. But it's also a huge distraction and reduces your situational awareness if you're using it at inappropriate times and inappropriate places where you should have your head up and be aware of what's going on. But at the very least, you need to have that on you because it's the way to get help. And a word about cell phones. I'm religious about keeping my cell phone charged. When I'm at home, it's plugged into a charger. When I'm on the road, I have it charging in my car. So I always have as close to 100% as I can on my cell phone. You do not want to rely on technology, and they often fail at the most important times, but you want to count on having a fully charged cell phone. The third thing that I recommend is pepper spray. And pepper spray is, I've got to tell you, I've used pepper spray and I've been in situations where I've been on the inadvertent end of pepper spray and struggles with people. And it is an effective tool. If you do choose to carry pepper spray, use the same philosophy that I recommend with a flashlight, and it's get a high quality law enforcement grade one, like from Turner's Outdoors, Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, you can order it online. But get one that has a pocket clip on it, not a keychain that'll wind up in the bottom of your purse, but one that has a pocket clip similar to the flashlight that you can keep on your weak side. So what I'm saying is that you keep your primary striking implement, your flashlight, concealed on your right hip, and your pepper spray with a pocket clip on your left hip. So no matter what hand you have available to you, one, engage, opening up a door to get away or fending off a blow, you have the ability to get your pepper spray into action. So you need to get a high quality pepper spray that has a pocket clip and also comes out as a stream and not a fog. The stream it gives you the life-saving benefit of distance. They can spray up to 15 feet away in a narrow stream, and you can aim it at their eyes and nose and take away that ability for somebody to see you or to breathe properly. A fog comes out in a wide fog, and if you're in a windy environment outside, it can come back and hit you even worse. So I recommend a high quality law enforcement grade pepper spray with a pocket clip that comes out in a stream. And test fire it, buy a new one every 1 to 2 years, and take your old one out in the backyard and test fire it so you can see exactly how it comes out, practice aiming it, and you'll get a little bit back into your senses so you can see that you can fight through it even if you wind up getting sprayed with it as well. So 3 tools that you should have on you at all times. At the end of I always get a question about carrying firearms, and I'll cover that at the very end.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
So this stuff works. And just like there are three sides to the crime triangle, victim, offender, and opportunity, your default response to anything, any danger, not just active shooters, but again, everything from a creepy client to somebody that's trying to physically assault you, is to number one, run, get off the X, get out of there. Number two, if you are in a situation where you can't get away, you need to find a place where you can hide or barricade yourself and call for help. And if that doesn't work and your life or somebody else's life is in imminent danger, you need to attack your attacker with speed, surprise, and violence of action. I received a phone call in late July from one of the OCAR members who called to tell me that she'd attended my course several times, and she happened to be at Knott's Berry Farm when there was a shooting at the front entrance. She happened to be with her family at Camp Snoopy, and she said once the shots went off, people started panicking and fleeing towards Camp Snoopy away from the entrance, and everybody believed it was an active shooter. Because she had been through this class and she had seen this video and had gone through and thought about what to do, run, hide, fight, and actually put herself there mentally before it happened, she told me she was so grateful that she already knew what to do, and she took a leadership role in the cafe or the restaurant near Camp Snoopy where she was. When people were panicking and didn't know what to do, she was directing people to barricade the doors, get people out the back. And she said if she hadn't been through the course and didn't know this and didn't think about it ahead of time, she would have been one of those panicking. So catalog this as one of the big takeaways today. When you're at risk of anything, your number one default reaction is to run, to get off the X and get out of there. Now let's talk about removing the offender from the crime triangle. My number one recommendation for that is to project self-confidence and command presence at all times. We all know people that despite their size, they could be the biggest person that you've seen, bodybuilder, but they walk around with their shoulders slunched over and they don't make eye contact, and they may look big, but they're actually pushovers. They invite aggression. And all of us know somebody that might be small in stature, but when they walk into a room like Cassie Cardenas, everybody knows Cassie, and when she walks into a room, she commands attention, and she projects self-confidence. And I would pity anybody to give Cassie a hard time. Be Cassie, project confidence, be the lion on the Serengeti. Predators are base animals, and they target, just like a lion targets the gazelle on the plane that has his head down or appears sick and weakly. A criminal targets a person, or a predator targets a person that looks unself-confident, has their shoulders down, doesn't make eye contact, and is unsure of themselves. So the simple act of engaging with somebody, making eye contact, not in a threatening way, but in a friendly way, being polite, be professional, but having a plan, having your shoulders back, being aware of your surroundings, that goes miles to dissuading predators and criminals from targeting you. So self-confidence is key. Number two, removing the offender through having consistent policies with your office. And if you work alone, having professional, personal policies of never meeting before, always asking for an ID and conducting protective intelligence checks, background checks on prospects before meeting them face-to-face. In offices, having somebody fill out a client information sheet where you get their name, their license plate number, establishing a paper trail and witnesses, having physical security practices set up when you're doing showings and open houses. And what I mean by that, let's discuss open houses for a second. There are today, it's just a standard business practice that many real estate agents will not do an open house alone. You can have a lender or a home inspector, one of your professional colleagues sit with you. A quick word about that. Real estate is a highly competitive industry. Even if you work in the same office, everybody's competing for a finite pool of clients. But when it comes to safety, it needs to be collaborative and not competitive. So I recommend that if you have a close colleague that's also an agent, if you don't have anything going on a weekend and you know they're showing an open house, volunteer to go sit with them for a couple hours, and they'll return the favor. But start establishing that practice of having somebody there with you to give you the safety in numbers. If you're not able to do that, there are things that you can do during open houses that give it the appearance of having somebody there with you. I call it like an open house kit. For about $12, you can buy a set of 3 or 4 dummy cameras from off of Amazon, and like the little bubbles that they have stick them on the bottom of them, and they look like those bubbles that you see at the bank that have the multi-directional cameras. They're about the size of the palm of your hand. You can print out a couple of this premises is under video surveillance, and just put them on the front door of the home, and at several places in the home. And then put these dummy cameras, one up on the front door, one above the kitchen table or in the kitchen where you're standing, and one at the master bedroom, and give the impression that the place is under video surveillance, even though it isn't. Use creativity. If you have a laptop or an iPad, turn it around at the front door and put it right where the sign-in sheet is. So when somebody walks in, they see themselves on the screen of your laptop along with a sign. It gives the impression that they're being recorded and there's a permanent record of them being there. Again, use deception in your favor. If somebody else can't be there with you, make it look like there is somebody with you. Bring a kit with those dummy cameras, and then also a sport coat or like a Hydro Flask or a drink and a box from a fast food restaurant. Put it on the table to make it look like there's somebody there with you. They might have run out to run an errand and will be back shortly. Use we terms. Speak as if you're not there alone, or pretend that you're on the phone with somebody and that they're coming right back. But there are things that you can do through deception to make it look like there's somebody with you. Before you even begin the showing or an open house, introduce yourself to the neighbors. Tell them that you're going to be there. So if something bad happens and you run to their door for help, they know what's going on. Or if you scream, you need help, they know that you're there. But before doing that, check Megan's Law database to make sure that your neighbors aren't registered sex offenders. When you go through the house before the open house, make sure that all of the prescription drugs, if you're the listing agent, talk with the homeowner and have them put away their firearms and their prescription drugs and valuables. So you're not stuck in a situation where somebody comes in and steals something and you interrupt them in the process of a crime. Additionally, before you even open it up for open houses, look at it through the lens of run, hide, fight. What are your exits? I recommend that you stay by the front door and the front entryway at all times and let people walk through the house. And if something bad happens, you can get out and get back to your car and get out of there. But if for some reason you find yourself in another part of the house, you need to know where the exits are. And before anybody ever shows up, practice manipulating the door locks on the sliders. You might find yourself in a situation where you have to back out of a slider while you're fending off blows. Can you do it behind your back? Do you know how the lock works? If you wind up in the backyard, actually go to the side gate. See if you have the ability to get out back to the front and back to your car. So set the conditions, the opportunity of that crime triangle in your favor. Is there a walk-in closet where the door opens in that if you can't get out of a primary exit or a secondary exit, can you hide in a closet and lay on the floor and blockade the door with your feet so that they can't kick it in while you call 911 for help? Again, set it up so no matter where you are in the house, you have the ability to run, to hide, or to fight. Are there any implements in the house that can be used against you as a weapon, or is there anything that you could use in any of the rooms to a chair or a desk that you could push against a door to barricade yourself in? Think of it through the lens of safety and through run, hide, fight before you ever open it up to the general public. And then finally, removing the offender. Personal marketing strategies. This is a very often overlooked critical aspect of personal safety. You wouldn't believe some of the marketing materials I found of scantily clad realtors or realtors showing marketing materials showing them leaning up against an exotic car, flashing a Rolex, giving the impression that they're wealthy or that they're selling their physical attributes. I always say be professional and not provocative. It's always far better to be known for your professionalism and your customer service rather than your physical appearance. Again, I harken back to one of the first things I said. There are very few legal occupations where a predator can find you online, research you, look at if they're into blondes, they can find a blonde real estate agent in their particular area and find a home and lure her to a house at the time of his or her choosing. So be very careful about the image that you present. And if you use social media for your business, I highly recommend separating your personal and professional accounts. You never want to mix the two. You don't want to give somebody that's looking for a mark or a target of opportunity the ability to look into your personal life, to see if you're married or have a boyfriend, where you like to travel, what kind of car you drive, where your home is. You want to create a completely new professional profile on Facebook or Instagram and post no personal information on that whatsoever. On your personal social media, lock down all the privacy settings so that only your friends have the ability to see it. Just like I'm telling you how you can use the web and social media and online tools to research your prospects. Predators, sophisticated predators, do that to you before they ever decide to target you. So be aware of what's out there and what can be used against you, and mitigate that as much as possible. And then finally, opportunity. Removing that side of the crime triangle. I recommend that if you work in an office, you have holistic safety training at least quarterly. Every 3 months, have a team meeting and discuss safety. Whether it be active shooters, run, hide, fight, strategies for showing open houses, how make available, discuss new client information sheets, and then also participating in self-defense. Any self-defense training is better at none, but there are some martial arts that are more effective and easier to learn quicker than others. If you're not a martial artist and you want to learn some basic stuff, I recommend Krav Maga. It's Kravmaga. There are several Orange County Krav Maga locations. There's one in Mission Viejo. I think there's one in Irvine. There at Huntington Beach. But it's a very effective Israeli martial art that took the best practices from all of the rest and implemented them into one. And it's designed, it's a great workout. It's kicks and punches and very effective self-defense techniques that you can use to ward off an aggressor and get away and get to help. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is excellent because most physical altercations wind up on the ground, and it teaches you how to use, no matter what your size, technique and leverage to be able to escape and choke opponents using your legs and your arms and various other techniques. It's fantastic, but it also takes much more time to learn. And you study that for years, and it's extremely effective, but it's a little more involved than Krav Maga. So always be thinking about your safety, have periodic meetings, and if something uncomfortable or bad happens to you or someone in your office, you need to conduct debriefings. Meet with your supervisors and your fellow agents and discuss what went wrong, what went right, and what you can do to change, and have a discussion about safety and business protocols that you can implement to improve the safety, to make it less competitive and more collaborative when it comes to safety. But safety should always be your number one priority and be reinforced with holistic training practices. I'm always available to come out to your brokerage or your office and conduct seminars. But always keep it on the front burner. Number 2, be consistent. Don't make exceptions no matter what. Things go bad even with long-term clients, and you'll see an example of that shortly. But always, new prospects, always ask them for ID and conduct your background check on them before meeting them face-to-face. When you do meet them face-to-face, do it in a public place. If you don't have an office, meet them at a Starbucks or a food court somewhere. And grab a cup of coffee and have them fill out a new client safety sheet. A word about that: there's some apps that you can download on your device now where you can take their government issue ID. They have a barcode on the back. You can scan them and upload them and keep that information on your cell phone for later use. It's another way to show the client that you take safety seriously, and now they know that you have a permanent record of them contacting you. It's a fantastic practice, and you can find them all day on the App Store. And number 3, for opportunity, you need to be constantly aware of your surroundings at all times. When you're out in public with your family, at a movie theater, in a restaurant, or showing properties or conducting an open house. Again, predators, the lion always targets the gazelle that has its head down. So be constantly aware. And I discussed this before. And one of the examples, the shooting in Huntington Beach, situational awareness is also asking questions when you're a listing agent, and finding out what the personal situation is of your client. Knowing more. Is there a family dispute related to the sale of this property? Do you have it? Is everybody in your family on board with this? Establishing a rapport with a client, so before you ever set foot on the property that there's no dangerous environment there that gives rise to the opportunity for something bad to happen. We talked about subscribing to all the social media channels social media pages of the law enforcement agencies where you live and work, so you get constant reinforcement about crime trends in neighborhoods. So very, very important to be constantly situationally aware of the environment that you're in and that you're going into ahead of time, and using the tools at your disposal to be able to remove the opportunity for bad things to happen. Now, this incident that you're about to see occurred in 2018. OCAR member Jennifer Heflin, I spoke with her about 3 weeks ago and asked her permission to share this with you, but it's another example of something that went terribly wrong in and what appears to be crime-free leisure world, Laguna Woods. But she's a very experienced real estate agent, and she had a long-term client and was involved in a dispute the client had with a contractor that she recommended that resulted in her client being shot and killed by the police. So, give you a look.
That shooting shocked the retirement community of Laguna Woods Village.
And it was prompted in part by an argument over remodeling plans. CBS 2 Orange County reporter Stacy Butler is live with an interview you'll see only on 2. Stacy.
Pat and Rick, that Orange County realtor who shared the name of the man who ended up getting shot, it was her client. She said that she really liked this guy. She had a close relationship with he and his wife. He was brilliant. He loved his wife. So yesterday, when he showed her his gun and his ammunition and said he wanted to shoot his contractor, she never dreamed for 1 second that any of it was real.
I walked in hoping I could calm him down.
When Jennifer Heflin walked into her client Paul Mono's new home in the retirement community of Laguna Woods today to deliver the latest blueprints and receipts for he and his wife's renovation, she knew things could get heated. She says he was so angry that the contractor she recommended went over budget, he snapped.
They didn't want to see him. They want nothing to do with the contractor.
Heflin runs Laguna Woods' top real estate brokerage, Laguna Premier Realty. She sold the Marina Del Rey transplants in their 60s their home 5 months ago. Today she was determined to repair the rift between her client and the contractor, Dennis Metzler. She says the minute she met with her client, she realized he was extremely angry and seemed to be on something. The contractor sat outside in his car listening to the whole ordeal.
I had my phone on because Dennis asked me to keep it on because he was worried about me because he had a gun. He had threatened Dennis and he was worried about me going in, but I wasn't worried about going in to talk with them at all.
But minutes later, she says he started screaming about the cost of the renovation. He punched in his TV, then started waving his gun. She says Mono pointed it right at her.
I go, Paul, put that gun down. Why are you even, swinging that? You just put the gun down. Put the gun down. Go put the gun back. I wasn't afraid.
On the other end of her phone, the contractor warned her to get out. She says Mono put the gun down and she walked out and drove away. But that's when neighbors say the screaming continued. Deputies showed up and neighbors say 5 to 6 shots were fired.
I feel really bad for his wife. I don't know what she's going to do.
And Mono was taken to Mission Hospital in extremely critical condition. Now, I did speak with a spokesperson at Mission Hospital tonight. She told me that a man by the name of Paul Mono did die tonight at the hospital, but the Sheriff's Department has not yet confirmed that. That's the latest from Laguna Woods. Back to you guys in the studio.
Arrest. That shooting shocked.
So when I spoke to Jennifer, she told me that she had had Mr. Mono as a client for over a year. and had done a couple of other real estate transactions with him. She had recommended this contractor to do the work at his condo, and had a long-term relationship. You know, she said he never gave any indication that he was this type of person. During this dispute where he was very angry at the contractor, and by default was also angry at her because she had recommended him, she met the contractor out front, and the contractor had told her that her client was extremely upset and was threatening to kill him. So, with this in the background, being situationally aware, knowing what you know now, based on the crime triangle, in retrospect, I give kudos to Jennifer. She didn't wind up getting shot, and she was okay, but it did wind up in a shooting, and she did have a gun pointed at her. Knowing what you know now, with all that information and knowing the crime triangle, probably the best approach would not be to interject yourself into that situation and call law enforcement and not put yourself in a position where you could be shot. Jennifer, in retrospect, thinks that she made a mistake by going in there because the guy actually pointed the gun at her. Who knows? By the grace of God, she wasn't shot. But this reinforces that bad things happen, but there are warning signs ahead of time and things that you can do to remove those sides of the crime triangle. And number one, getting yourself out of that, or not putting yourself on the X to be in a dangerous situation. This stuff happens. It happens within our community here in Orange County, as evidenced by these two stories. So just a big lesson learned as it relates to situational awareness and the crime triangle. Motivated offenders. Her client was very angry and was armed. She was present along with the contractor, the target of his animosity, and then the opportunity. All three of them were together, and something very bad happened. It could have been even more tragic, where an innocent person could have been killed. So big lesson learned and an example. So this Boyd cycle. John Boyd was a colonel in the U.S. Air Force and a prolific fighter pilot from the Korean War era. And he was tasked with establishing a new training paradigm for all future warriors by the Air Force to kind of take the lessons of the Korean War and why we were so successful against the Chinese and North Koreans and the Russians in the air war. With our overwhelming air superiority. And he formulated this model. It's a 4-step decision-making process that every human being goes through in any competitive relationship. This model applies to warfare, to self-defense, to sports, and even to business. And it's basically this. The first stage is observation mode. Most frequently, the person that is successful in any interaction or any competitive or self-defense situation is the one that can observe the opponent ahead of time and have more time to determine what the best course of action is, to decide, pick the right course of action, and then implement it. The observation section is seeing the attacker before they see you. Distance equals safety. Now you have tools now to be able to do that using the Megan's Law database and social media vetting, having a process to vet people before you ever see them, to ask questions over the phone before you meet them face to face about the conditions of the sale. Is there any animosity or any conflict within the family? All of those factors aid in putting you in a position to not even be on the X, to avoid it and be able to make your decisions. The orientation phase is the ability to decide which of your preloaded mental models. I talked about this in the beginning. It's so important that you begin thinking today about high frequency situations that you may find yourself in, and coming up with your defenses against them. Getting off the X, run, hide, fight, having simple excuses to break contact with somebody, and like getting out of a bad date. All of these things preloaded. So if you find yourself in the situation and you're able to detect that early, you can decide which one is more effective, to decide which one to use and then act and implement it. Both the aggressor both people are going through this at the same time. Predators are going through the OODA loop as well. They're watching you. Most frequently, you're a target of opportunity, so not over the horizon. Sometimes they decide at the spur of the moment to target you because you don't look like that you're self-confident or aware. So they're going through that. So the best thing you can do is get off the X by moving, getting out of that situation. As soon as you detect it, you force them back into the observation mode. So you're going through this OODA loop faster than they are. You can front load this in your favor by today, implementing these strategies about vetting your clients, being aware of the market conditions, the crime conditions in the neighborhoods, using law enforcement social media to keep you constantly informed. That really emphasizes the observation mode. So you have a leg up over the bad guys, as well as preloading these mental blueprints and knowing, giving yourself permission to implement them at a moment's notice to get them out, to get yourself out of a bad situation. That's the OODA loop or Boyd cycle. Very important concept that you need to understand before you go back out there and get back in the community and start selling. So in conclusion, think about your professional and personal safety as a series of concentric circles that are actual barriers or perceived barriers to predators that they need to get through to get to you. We talked about the first one, situational awareness. That is your number one defensive tool, is your intuition and your situational awareness. You can feed your intuition and your situational awareness by subscribing to local media, local social media, having that constant feed of crime information at your fingertips, paying attention to the news, setting up realtor safety, Google alert, so you're constantly emailed breaking crime trends in the real estate community, having a practice of debriefing bad situations so other agents can learn from your mistakes. That increases situational awareness, and that's your most important over the horizon radar observation mode component of this. Next is having a consistent practice of protective intelligence, and that's asking for a copy of having a client or prospect text you a photo ID before you ever meet them face to face, and at the very least running them through Megan's Law to see if they're a sex offender. That's a very critical barrier that they need to get through, and you can avoid any situation, even being close to the X, by vetting them ahead of time before meeting them face to face. The next one are office safety protocols. Having a person there that knows where you are and who you're with, that will sit with you at an open house, somebody that a family member, a loved one, or a coworker that you can call to give you backup if you feel uncomfortable. Having the office safety protocol of never meeting somebody face to face before you identify them, or going on a showing, meeting them at the office or at a Starbucks ahead of time and having them fill out a client information sheet. And then finally, personal safety. Having the personal tools, your ability to know a few self-defense moves, carrying your personal defense weapons like your flashlight and your pepper spray and your charged cell phone, and having them on you at all times. Having your preloaded mental models, all of that, all combined together, provide you with the best and effective personal and professional safety as you work in a hazardous occupation. So as I conclude today, before I open up to questions, I just want to emphasize how important it is that you, me, all of us work together to keep real estate, or to make real estate and reinforce real estate when it comes to safety, as a collaboration. We all count on each other. We always have each other's backs. And we want to drive those homicide numbers down to zero. Instead of being one of the most hazardous professional occupations, it becomes among the most safe by implementing these strategies. So thank you very much for your time and attention today. If you want any more information, you can contact me at crisiscontrolsolutions@gmail.com. There's my phone number. Or you can visit my webpage. Follow me on Facebook at Crisis Control Solutions, and on Instagram at Crisis Control Solutions as well. So it's really been an honor to present to you today.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Your tips were just beyond helpful to us. Good reminders. Okay, first question. We are not allowed to ask for a California driver's license when evaluating tenant applications until after the decision to rent to them has been made. With that, can we ask for the driver's license from a prospective client for our own safety without getting too close to a discriminatory situation?
I am not aware of any legal provision that precludes you from asking for a copy of ID. You do that when you test drive a car, when you cash a check, or you use a credit card in some circumstances. Why it has not been implemented as a practice for real estate, I do not know, but I strongly encourage everybody to do that before they establish a professional relationship with somebody.
Thank you. Are there any particular shops that would be good to buy the flashlight?
You can find these, the Surefire and the Olight, on Amazon. You can also go to Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops or Turner's Outdoorsman. They're readily available, or you can go to the Surefire or Olight website and pull it up. I bought both of these on Amazon.
Thank you. Can you please tell us again where to do the check of a client using their driver's license? Yeah, so if you go to Google and you Google California Megan's Law database, just follow the link to the California Department of Justice Megan's Law website. You bookmark that on your computer and on your mobile device, and then it just asks you to check a box to acknowledge that you're not going to use that database for illegal purposes, but you can run their name through there. You can run an address, or you can pull up a map of the community. If you're going, for instance, if you're going to show a house in, say, Laguna Hills, you can enter the address, or a map will come up. You can kind of circle the area that you want to see, and it'll pull up all the registry sex offenders there. It'll show an icon. You click on the icon of the address, and it shows the picture of the sex registrant, as well as their home address and the crime that they were convicted of and mandated to register with. So it's a very effective tool, and quite scary sometimes. If you run in your own neighborhood, you could see people in your immediate area that are registered sex offenders. Next question, please discuss the viability of realtors being approved for CCW.
You are blessed to live and work in Orange County. Orange County, and I can refer to online. If you go to the OCAR YouTube page, I believe it's on YouTube, but you can see Sheriff Barnes did an interview as part of Safety Week this week. Orange County has the highest number of concealed weapons permits approved in the entire state. He said there's 17,000 concealed weapon permit holders in Orange County. You can't say that for LA County. I think the only people that get them there are campaign contributors to the sheriff. But if you have a valid reason, and being a real estate agent is a valid reason, and you have a clean record, no felony convictions, you're not an addict, a drug addict, or a terrorist, and you go through the process and go through the course and pay the fees, the sheriff will approve a concealed weapons permit for you. And a word about concealed weapons permits. I am a tremendous Second Amendment proponent. I've carried a gun for over 3 decades, and it is a very effective tool, but with it comes a huge moral and legal liability and responsibility. A firearm is not carrying a firearm is not a decision to be taken lightly. You need to decide today if you are capable of taking another human being's life, because that is exactly what introducing a firearm into a dangerous situation does. You are going to kill somebody. If you don't have the ability to do that, if you question that at all, do not carry a firearm, because if you find yourself in a situation where you need to use it, or it gets introduced or pulled, it's far more likely to be used against you, somebody taking it away from you. You could only use a firearm in a very, very narrow set of circumstances. You can only use a firearm to defend yourself or somebody else from great bodily injury or death. And that is a very, very narrow set of circumstances. So you cannot pull out a gun if somebody's arguing with you, or if you feel the person is being creepy, you cannot pull a gun on them. Now you've introduced a firearm into an otherwise normal or a non-deadly force situation, and it's extremely dangerous for you, and you can be liable for it. So if you decide that if you know yourself and you're capable of taking another human life, and you're willing to commit to the lifestyle and the responsibility of seeking training and practicing consistently, I strongly encourage you to do so. If you're not, don't do it, because you wind up doing more harm to yourself and to other people than it's worth carrying. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, next question. Megan's Law is only for sex offenders. What about violent offenders?
Now, I discussed briefly about the online court records. Now, having access to the California criminal history database is only restricted to some attorneys and to law enforcement. But there is a workaround to that, and that is establishing an online account with the Superior Court online records. Every Superior Court in California, Superior Court districts are based off of counties. So if you go to each county court, you have the ability to access online court records. Now, they used to be free, but now they've, just like every government entity, now they realize that they can charge for it, but it's very nominal. You can run somebody's name through the Orange County criminal court records to see if they've ever been a defendant in a criminal case or a litigant in a civil case. You can even look at driving records online. So if you want to do a deeper dive to see if anybody has been, it won't tell you if they've been arrested. It will only tell you if they've been charged as a defendant in a criminal case. You can pull up you can check the court online records to see if they've been a suspect. Now, it doesn't tell you if somebody's been arrested. You can use, there are some search engines, like you can run people on the Orange County Sheriff's website. You can look to see if somebody's been in custody recently or has a warrant for their arrest. But it's impossible for the general public to be able to look at somebody's criminal history. But again, you can use Megan's Law to see if they've been registered as a sex offender, and 2, use online court records to see if they've had a criminal case against them.
Okay, if there are any other questions, if you can please type them in the Q&A. Another one, Jeff, Megan's Law is for California. What about a database, a national database? Is there one that we can access? Because clients are coming to us from out of state as well.
Yes, there is. It's called the Drew Jodine database, and it's hosted by the U.S. Department of Justice. So if you go into the Google search box and you type in National Sex Offender Registry, it'll take you to the U.S. Department of Justice website. And you just follow the link to their National Sex Offender Registry. Now, it's federal law that all states and U.S. territories maintain an active and accurate sex offender registry. So if somebody's getting a hold of you through out of state, that should be your first check, is the national one. And it basically links all of the 50 states and the U.S. territories, Guam and Puerto Rico. And you have the ability to see if they're registered as sex offenders. Now, a quick word about that. Not all sex offenders are registered on Megan's Law on the database, and not all people that are on the database that you find are sexual predators. There are some people that are forced to do that. If they're arrested, if they're out drunk one night and they wind up urinating in public and they expose themselves, that might not necessarily be a sex offender or a predator, but they do wind up on there. So you have the ability to see what their conviction is for. And if it's for like lewd and lascivious acts against a minor, that's a sexual predator or rape. But if it's indecent exposure, you can use a little bit of common sense. People make mistakes. And again, everybody has the right to purchase property, and you can't discriminate against these people for being on that. But if they are on that, then you need to implement an enhanced safety plan and have one or more people with you, and establish protocols to keep yourself, the deck stacked in your favor with any contact with them.
Okay, what do you think of using whitepages.com?
All tools are good. In my 2-hour course that I do, I do a deep dive into online databases, and I talk about how to backdoor into other people's social media profiles using some online tools. One of the things that I didn't cover was there are some sites out there that you can use. If somebody's calling you and they're saying everything that you want to hear that sounds like it's a sure thing, that they're a cash buyer and they have a very limited amount of time and they're coming from out of state and they have a family and they need to find a place right away, And it sounds too good to be true. Sometimes it is too good to be true. So using these tools, or even logging onto Instagram after you get a copy of their driver's license and you find out their name, look at their Facebook and their online social media and see if the story that they're telling you is validated through their social media. If they're saying that they have a family and they're relocating, but you pull up their Instagram and it's only pictures of them and no kids, and that's not saying that they're bad people, but you should be asking some more questions. It should be giving you some pause. Another good aspect of conducting research into people's social media before you meet them face to face and doing these checks is to develop the ability to establish a rapport with them, find out what their likes are, where they like to vacation, and kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And it's a good conversation starter. I don't want to make you look like a stalker, but the more you know about somebody before you meet them face to face, using the OODA loop, your observation stage, you stack the deck in your favor, you know more about them, and you have the ability to be more professional and close a deal faster. So it works both as a safety mechanism and as ability to make yourself a more professional and productive real estate agent.
Okay, and People Finder, is that another website?
People Finder is one. Zabasearch, Zabasearch, is a great one. Peekyou, Peekyou. All of these, play around with them and run yourself through them. It can scare you to see how much public information there is that people can find about you. One word about that I'll mention is that these sites are maintained by information brokers, and there's a lot of discussion and chatter in the news about cracking down on personal privacy, how important it is. But anytime you purchase an appliance and fill out a warranty card, or you apply for a loan, these banks and lenders frequently sell, unless you tell them explicitly not to, they sell your personal information to these brokers, and they put these sites online, and you could find out a lot about somebody. Like, for instance, Zabasearch, you can run somebody's name and the state that they're in, and you could see all their prior addresses. You could find out their relatives, other places that they've lived, their phone numbers, and all of that comes from, if you think back to warranty cards you filled out when you buy a washing machine and you buy an extended warranty. All that information that you fill out gets sold, and it gets posted for the public to see. So there is a mechanism. If you run yourself through these sites, down at the bottom, if you look at privacy, you click on that, you can remove yourself from it. And there are services out there that you can pay like $100 a year, and they will scrub these public information broker sites of your information. And I encourage you to do that. I tried as best I could when I was in law enforcement to do it, but it was like, putting your dam in the dike, and it's just overwhelming the number of sites. But run yourself so you could see what people can find out about you, and keep that in the back of your mind when you're doing your marketing materials. But there's countless sites, but use it to your advantage as well for your safety, and realize that it can be used against you. So, it goes both ways.
Okay. What was the app to scan the driver's license, and how does it work?
I was looking at it this morning, and if you search in the App Store, driver's license scanner, there's probably a dozen of them there. So I've seen them in use at bars. The doorman will use it to scan driver's licenses for underage people, but it reads the barcode on the bottom of state issued IDs and snaps a picture of it in OCR's optical character recognition, but it uploads that information onto your phone. I'm sure many of you use business card scanners. If somebody gives you a business card, you snap a picture of it and it loads into your contacts. It does that with driver's licenses as well. So there's not one that I recommend, but there are a bunch of them out there, and just know that they exist, and you could use that. You could download it for yourself and use it as a safety tool for you.
Okay. The next one, okay. As realtors, we are required to reveal all information relative to the property. If we discover a client is a sex offender via Megan's Law database, are we required to disclose to all parties?
That's a good question. I personally wouldn't do that, but I would tell them about the resource and tell them that the Megan's Law database is there for them to use, and let them do their own research. I'll leave it at that.
Good answer. Okay, looks like we don't have any more questions. Let me check real quick on chat. And I don't see anything on chat either. So Jeff, there's a lot of thank you very much for this excellent presentation. So with that, thank you so much for taking time to educate our members today.
Well, thank you very much. It was an honor. I always look forward to doing this. And if any of you have any questions or want additional information or a seminar at your brokerage or office, please reach out to me and we can schedule that. Please be safe out there. I hope you all have some new tools that you could use to implement in your safety toolbox. And again, let's work together to bring those numbers to zero.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Thank
I
you.
would also, just to end, I would also like to thank those in attendance for joining us for our second annual Safety Week. We hope you found the speakers and content to be of value. Keep an eye out for your email follow-up, and we will announce our grand prize winner and a brief feedback survey so we can continue to improve our offerings in the future. So thank you so much again and have a nice day.